What I'm about to tell you took me months to understand. I kept thinking the bank had made some mistake. I kept thinking my son had made some mistake. I didn't know that by the time that phone rang, the story had already been happening for months. My bank called to say my son tried to take control of my money using fake dementia papers. I wish I were joking, but those were almost the exact words I repeated after I hung up. I am Margaret Bennett, a 42-year-old librarian from Charlotte, North Carolina, and 6 months earlier I'd suffered a mild concussion after a small car accident. The doctors called it brain fog. Sometimes I'd lose my keys or repeat myself, but they told me it would pass. I nearly dropped my tea when my banker, Susan Harris, asked, "Mrs. Bennett, did you authorize documents giving your son access to your accounts?" I laughed. "No, what documents?" Susan paused. "Someone uploaded forms that raised concerns during a routine review. Before taking any action, we wanted to verify them with you. They mentioned concerns about cognitive decline." My hands went cold. "Susan, I'm at work. I catalog books all day." She lowered her voice. "That's why I called." 20 minutes later, my son, Ethan Bennett, walked into my kitchen. "Mom, why are you crying?" I looked up. "Did you send dementia papers to my bank?" He froze. Then he said quietly, "Mom, this isn't how I wanted you to find out." My daughter, Lily Bennett, arrived before I could even process what he'd said. Ethan stood by the refrigerator and wouldn't look at me. "Ethan, tell me she's misunderstanding," Lily said. He rubbed his face. "Nobody's saying Mom can't function." I stared at him. "Then why would the bank think I can't?" He sighed. "Mom, you've been forgetting things," I laughed. "Like what?" He interrupted himself. "Your glasses, your keys. Last month you called me twice." Lily frowned. "Everybody loses keys." Ethan shook his head. "You don't see it because you're not around." Then he looked at me and said something that made my chest tighten. "Mom, nobody's taking anything. I'm trying to make life easier before something bad happens." The room went quiet. Lily looked sick. I couldn't even answer, because suddenly I remembered Thanksgiving when Ethan corrected me in front of everyone and smiled while saying, "Mom gets mixed up sometimes." And the thing is, back then I thought he was joking. I almost threw Ethan out that day. I really did, but he sat at my kitchen table looking more nervous than guilty. "Mom, listen to me." I crossed my arms. "No, you listen to me. Dementia papers." He looked down. "Those guys online said banks have safeguards. I was trying to help." Lily blinked. "What guys?" Ethan shrugged. "Friends, people who know finances." Lily groaned. "Ethan, you're 22. He snapped. "Exactly. Nobody listens to me because I'm 22. Then he looked at me. "Mom, Dad's gone. Somebody has to protect things." I stared at him. "Protect what?" He changed the subject. "Did you pay the electric bill?" I laughed. "Last week, see," he said quickly. "You had to think about it." Lily stood up. "Because she pays 20 bills, genius." Ethan grabbed his keys. "Fine, don't believe me." Then he stopped at the door. "Mom, you don't even remember half the things you promise people." And that sentence bothered me all night. The next Wednesday, I had lunch with my retired neighbor, Walter Jennings. Walter was 74 and fed birds every morning like it was a job. He looked at me over his soup. "You look tired," I laughed. "Apparently I have dementia now." Walter nearly dropped his spoon. "Who told you that, my son?" He frowned. "That boy used to ride his bike into my mailbox." I smiled despite myself. Then my phone rang. It was Ethan. "Mom, where are you?" "Lunch," he sighed. "With who?" "Walter." He paused. Again, I laughed. Again, his voice changed. "Mom, this is what I'm talking about. You don't tell anybody where you're going." Walter raised an eyebrow. I put him on speaker. "Ethan, she's sitting right in front of me," Walter said. Ethan went quiet, then he forced a laugh. "Mr. Jennings, I just worry." Walter looked at me after the call ended. "Honey, worry and control are cousins. Don't confuse them." And I couldn't stop thinking about that. 3 days later, I made a mistake. I showed up an hour early for my dentist appointment. Ethan found out because the receptionist knew him. He arrived smiling. "See, I wasn't crazy." I felt embarrassed. "People make mistakes," he nodded. "Exactly, and good families plan ahead." Lily crossed her arms. "Or maybe good families don't file papers behind people's backs." Ethan sighed. "Lily, stop making me the bad guy." Then he looked at me. "Mom, if something happened to you tomorrow, nobody would know what to do." I didn't answer because, honestly, the mistake shook me. I even checked my calendar twice when I got home. Part of me wondered if the accident had done more damage than I thought. That night I sat with my chipped tea mug and almost convinced myself he might be right. Then Walter called. "Margaret, I found something strange in my garage. I think it belongs to your family." I laughed. "Walter, unless it's my Christmas lights, keep it." He was quiet. "Honey, I think you should come over tomorrow." And something in his voice made me sit up straight. Because I'd known Walter 11 years and I'd never heard him sound afraid. The next morning, I walked into Walter's garage expecting Christmas decorations. Instead, Walter held up an old tackle box. "Recognize this?" he asked. I laughed. "My husband used to carry that thing everywhere." Walter nodded. "Ethan left it here years ago after helping me fix the fence." I opened it and found old baseball cards, a faded family photo, and a folded paper. Before I could read it, my phone rang. "Ethan, Mom, where are you?" With Walter. He sounded irritated. "Again," Walter rolled his eyes. "That boy calls more than my doctor." I smiled. "What's wrong?" Ethan sighed. "Nothing. I just don't like not knowing where you are." I looked at the folded paper in my hand. "Ethan, what are you afraid of?" He went quiet, then he said softly, "You wouldn't understand." And for the first time since the bank called, he sounded less angry and more like a scared little boy. That frightened me even more. Walter adjusted his glasses while I unfolded the paper. Then he stopped me. "Honey, read the back first." My stomach tightened. In crooked handwriting, I saw Ethan's name. 11 years earlier, when he was 11 years old, he'd written one sentence: "Please don't sell our cabin. Dad says that's where families stay together." I sat down hard. Walter looked at me. "Your husband showed me that note years ago." My eyes filled with tears. "After my husband passed away, I almost sold the cabin. Ethan cried for 2 days. I kept it because of him." My phone buzzed again. It was Lily. "Mom, Ethan's room is a mess." I laughed. "That's breaking news," she whispered. "No, I found videos on his laptop." My chest tightened. "Videos?" Lily sounded sick. "Those finance guys he follows. They're telling people how to protect family cabins from unstable parents and warning kids not to wait until it's too late." I closed my eyes. Suddenly everything made terrible sense. That evening, Ethan came home expecting another argument. Instead, I sat quietly with the old note beside me. "What's this?" he asked. I slid it across the table. He frowned, then his face changed. "Where'd you find that?" I smiled sadly. "Walter kept your tackle box." Ethan sat down. "I wrote that when Dad got sick." "I know." He stared at the paper. "Mom, I thought—" He stopped. Lily walked in behind him. "Thought what?" Ethan rubbed his eyes. "I thought you were giving the cabin to Lily." Nobody spoke. Then he whispered, "Those guys online kept saying parents always choose favorites. And they said if I waited, I'd be too late." I looked at him. "Ethan, why didn't you ask me?" Tears filled his eyes. "Because I thought if you forgot me first, I'd lose everything." Lily sat beside him. I reached for his hand. And for the first time since the bank called, my son looked more ashamed than angry. Nobody yelled after that. That surprised me. Ethan sat there holding that old note like he was afraid it would disappear. Lily crossed her arms. "You filed dementia papers because of people on the internet?" He shook his head. "No, not because of them, because I thought Mom stopped trusting me." I looked at him. "Ethan, trust isn't something you grab before it disappears." He started crying. I hadn't seen him cry since his father passed away. "Mom, I thought if you forgot things, somebody would take everything and I'd lose the cabin too." I smiled sadly. "Honey, the cabin isn't even just mine anymore." He stared at me. "What?" I reached into the old tackle box and pulled out a faded drawing Lily had made when she was 7. Underneath, in Ethan's handwriting, were the words, "Family cabin forever, everybody welcome." I laughed softly. "After your father died, I changed the paperwork because I wanted that place to belong to both of you someday. Nobody was being left out." Ethan covered his face. "I ruined everything for nothing." And honestly, hearing that hurt him more than I ever could. Life didn't magically go back to normal. A week after everything came out, I sat with my banker, Susan Harris, and signed an affidavit stating that I considered the paperwork a family misunderstanding and didn't want legal action against my son. Susan squeezed my hand and said, "Margaret, you have no idea how relieved I am to hear your voice in person." Once the review was officially closed, life slowly started moving again. Ethan began seeing a counselor at the community center. Lily still teases him about believing strangers online more than his own family. Walter still feeds birds every morning, and every Wednesday he saves me a seat at lunch. Last month, Ethan showed up carrying paint cans. "Mom, the cabin porch needs help," he said. I smiled. "You remembered," he laughed. "I'm trying to." We spent the weekend together and nobody talked about banks or papers. The thing I learned is that fear can make people believe terrible things, especially when strangers tell them what they want to hear. But fear shrinks when people finally tell the truth. And if this story stayed with you, I'd love for you to like this video, subscribe so you never miss one, and leave a comment telling me what you felt. Has someone you love ever let fear change the way they treated you? Funny enough, the bank called because my son thought I was forgetting him. Turns out, he was the one who forgot who we were.